You know, it's times like these I think back to my old Spanish teacher, Senor Morgan, who had an old saying, I have a frog in my throat. I think I'm getting hoarse. Well, there's another old saying that says, the show must go on. And this show must go on because we have with us Chris Doumitt from Gold Rush, everybody. I don't want to miss it. You certainly don't want to miss it. So let's do this.
Blabber Brains.
Welcome to another episode of Blabber Brains Show. Ugh, my throat. As they say, the show must go on. I am very hoarse right now, but tell you who's not hoarse, who's very not hoarse, is the guy over there, the big M, Mark Anthony. What is happening, sir?
Hello, everybody out in Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Pornhub land, whatever it is, wherever you're listening to us and watching us.
And don't forget about our audio listeners too. We have a lot of people on Spotify and iHeartRadio and Apple Podcast and Google Podcast listening in. And I seem to always forget about mentioning those, but we do have a lot of a wide listening audience. I know this for a fact. On Spotify, we are in at least 13 different countries of people that tune in to listen to us. So that's pretty awesome.
Okay.
For two schleps from Pittsburgh. So
well, I hear that there's tens of Chinese kids having a bowl of cereal in the morning and listening to what we're doing.
Well, and of course this was a recorded show, so they can listen to us at any time of the day. Speaking of which, I know you said China, but I'm actually doing learning Japanese through Duolingo. Okay. I don't know how much I'm learning to speak it as much as I'm learning to recognize some of the characters that they're showing, like the symbols. With Japanese, it's all like symbols and stuff like that. So, and I'm trying to do the lessons over and over again so that they're ingrained. But I'm just like learning like numbers and colors and other word phrases, But I'm not sure like some things that they say, which is good morning is Ohayo. So I'm not sure, like they always say it like that, Ohayo. Like I never hear Japanese people say Ohayo as saying good morning. So like, will they be offended if I like greet a Japanese person in the morning and I say Ohayo?
I don't know if you do it and you go like this, like you're, Ohayo. Good morning. Yeah.
I don't know. It's just weird how they always say it. It doesn't matter whether it's the male voice or the female voice. They always say it like that, and it's just really odd. And I think what that's going to be like a dead giveaway. Oh, Duolingo, something like that. I don't know.
What's making you learn out of all languages Japanese?
I don't know. First of all, I thought it was, it's on my bucket list to go to Sasuke one year, and I was, every year I watch Sasuke, which is the original version of American Ninja Warrior, which is over in Japan. This was their 40th tournament since 1997 this year. And when they broadcast it, they show all the Japanese commercials, and they're always pretty funny and stuff like that. I never know. And of course, there's no subtitles or anything like that because this is like a Japanese broadcast, and you just watch it online. But I'm like, oh, like I wonder, like I want to understand what they're saying. So I just thought I'd learn Japanese through Duolingo. And I don't know. I mean, I could be into it for a year and probably know how to say like maybe one or two sentences. It's just when you get older, man, it's just harder to learn a new language,
I have no idea. I have no idea because I haven't tried it before. I mean, I thought years ago about learning Spanish just because I thought it would come in, it would be, I do in so many jobs that I see that I'm qualified for. Every now and then there's that one where if you could speak Spanish, there's a plus. I mean, when I worked years ago as a pharmacy tech, I was working with that AIDS medication, Crixivan, when it was first released. And we had a lot of people come, we had bilingual people and like, I don't know if you call it customer service, but, I was a pharmacy tech, but I was also taking calls and things. And we had a chart where if somebody came in speaking Spanish, that there were certain phrases that I could say, and they weren't spelled out the proper way just for pronunciation, to say, uno momento, to hold on a moment, or, I can't remember, but I would read them off and then transfer them somewhere else. And, I had a year of it in my freshman year in high school, and I had a terrible teacher. He was such a asshole. I mean, I could go into some stories about him with things that he was just a jerk, and he would assign like 3-4 hours of homework every night for just an elective. And I never did, I was able to do some basic communications and stuff, but, I know probably about 20 or 30 words. That's not going to do me any good.
Well, I took 4 years of Spanish in school, but if you don't use it all the time and you don't speak it all the time, it just kind of goes away. It's not like, it's not like riding a bike where you can just pick it right back up again. I mean, I can probably understand it more than I can speak it. But when you and I, you might remember this story when you and I were 21 and living in Florida and selling swimming pools. And I once sold a swimming pool to a family that didn't speak any English. They only spoke Spanish, but they understood English. And I could understand Spanish, but I couldn't speak Spanish that well, even though I just had 4 years of it in high school. And so I was saying things in English and they could understand me, and they were saying things back to me in Spanish and I could somewhat understand them. And it was pretty wild. And I ended up selling them a pool. I mean, so if that's bilingual, then it served me well.
Yeah. I mean, nowadays, at least if you had a basic command, you could talk it into your phone and hit translate and at least be able to function, like asking for where the closest bathroom is.
That's cheating.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. If I have to really go to the bathroom and nobody's understanding me, I'm going to give that a shot.
I wanted to learn Japanese. I wanted to learn a different language. It was funny because my daughter Sarah and I first started learning Hawaiian together. And she started first learning it. I'm like, I want to learn Hawaiian too. So we were doing it, but we kind of both gave up at the same time. The thing is, like I said, with Duolingo, I hope that like as you advance in the program, that like you start like knowing like what I'm saying and like in sentences. Right now I'm learning words, right? And I guess eventually you could put the words together. But Japanese is pretty cool because like all their symbols make sounds, and you string them together to make a word. And so like when you look at Japanese writing, you're like, it's just like a bunch of mumbo jumbo. It looks like a bunch of, cool artwork or something like that. But each word makes the same sound. So it's not like English where like you could have, bear, right? And there's a bear in the backyard, right? There are two different bears, or I'm bare naked and you know what I mean? Whatever. Right. I couldn't bear it. They all sound like bear, but they're all spelled differently. Or we have like long A's and short A's and long O's and whatever. The symbols are the symbols. So whatever sound the symbol makes, that's the sound it makes in the word. So it's actually simple when you put it that way. It's just knowing what what sound the symbols make, knowing like, so when you hear a word, I see that's the thing I'm going to have a hard time with. I know I'm going to be able to probably like speak Japanese, but maybe not understand Japanese.
Hey, if you did all you need is some basic words. If you had to function like help, stop, hi.
Well, right now I'm just on the basics. I've only been doing it for a few weeks, so I'm sure hopefully that if I keep it up, that who knows? Maybe in a couple of years, I'll be speaking rudimentary Japanese. So that if I ever do get to go to Japan and watch Sasuke live in person, which is on my bucket list, I'll be able to say hi, which is yes, konnichiwa, which is hello, and ohayo, which is good morning, stuff like that.
See, I can do that too. I just go.
Right. Yeah, but you'd be like going hi, and it'd be like, hi. They'd be like,
go like it.
And all you're saying is yes. When you say hi, it's yes.
Yeah, I just go like this.
Right. Okay. Just wave.
I can do that too.
Just bow to them.
Yeah.
All right. Well, enough of that. So to be topical, I just wanted to talk for a brief moment about the news that came out today about Alec Baldwin. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, I in fact, was it Yeah, I guess it was like around 11 o'clock. I had a TV on behind me while I was putting together some emails, and they broke in. I'm thinking it's probably going to be something about one of the snowfall or a storm or something like that. And I didn't think it was going to have, I've not that I forgot about that whole case, but I surely threw me off that would be what they would actually cut in to national broadcasts for. I can see if somebody's being bombed. Yeah, somebody's being bombed, or there's some tornado hitting somewhere. Or unfortunately, a lot of times when they do that anymore, it's about some active shooter that they're trying to get a hold of, or something like that. And I just thought that was a little. Well, I guess if you're the family, I mean, it's a different story. But for that to break through all the major networks, for them to stop programming for that, it's a shame.
I just thought. Go ahead.
The whole situation is just sad.
It's very sad. Yeah, it's messed up because someone's at fault for it. And now they had a pretty lengthy. I don't know if you want to call it a trial or a hearing or whatever. Before the judge made this ruling. So there was no rush to the judgment on him. And, I in my thoughts, I mean, other than OJ, I mean, even with OJ, it seems like if you're a celebrity, you kind of get the benefit of the doubt almost, you know what I mean? For some reason. And although you shouldn't. So, but they were saying that the reason they're going to appeal is because that it was like a botched investigation and stuff like that. And I'm thinking to myself, because of the nature of this, wouldn't there be more care involved in the investigation than it being rushed? I would think that you would take a little bit more time to make sure you get this right because of the what's at stake.
Well, I mean, that's their legal defense. You got to figure his attorneys are going to be better, just like we were talking about O.J. Simpson. His attorneys are going to be better than whatever the state or whoever it is it's the appointed attorneys, unfortunately. It's just like a drug dealer who ends up, getting busted for something that has a mandatory 25 or 30-year sentence. They get a public defender, that's what ends up happening. They're probably going to get 25 years, especially if they had priors. But if not, you spend some serious bucks for an attorney, that very well goes down to 5 years. So.
This carries, I think they said 18 months and a $5,000 fine. Like that to me sounds like a slap on the wrist. No,
there's actually, because I turned up the volume I was able to turn up the volume when I came on ABC. Guy's last name, he's an attorney. Abrams is his last name. Blonde-haired guy. I'm going to tell you what, that guy is, when he talks about something, more times than not, he's right. I mean, he really knows the whole, whether you like what he says or not, he's usually right. And there's also something else tied into it where it could actually be a 5-year mandatory sentence, he was saying. Now, what to prove all that, who knows what's going to happen? Do I think that he's going to serve 5 years in prison? No. Can I see him serving a short period of time, the 18 months, and getting out somehow in 6 or 8 months? Yeah, I could see that. I could see that.
But do you think his appeal will go through though? I don't think that he can appeal to the cows come home. They wouldn't have came down with this judgment if they didn't already prove that the negligence was on his part.
It buys them time though. Maybe. And that's the thing. And I don't know, there's got to be more to it than that. How does a bullet somehow get in the whole mix? That there's just something. There's more. I just think there's more to it than they're saying. You would think
there would have to be someone would have had to have planted it in there to either frame him or to kill Halyna or I don't know. I mean, how does a live bullet even get on the set? There's not even supposed to be live bullets on the set.
Yeah, I mean, that's the crazy thing. And look, I'm not an Alec Baldwin fan.
No, me either.
I'm not. I mean, he probably wouldn't be a bad guy if he didn't have such an anger management issue. Because I'm serious. Because there's so many things that he did, like all his Capital One commercials. He did only for some charity, and he had the checks written right to them. He didn't even get in the middle of using it for tax purposes and things like that. But when you got these guys like that have that terrible anger management problem, and they just blow up on anything, they go on a tangent, and they're idiots. It's like Mel Gibson when he goes off. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I feel bad for him just because of this. I can't imagine what it would be like to do something when all you thought you were doing was doing a scene and somebody dies.
Yeah.
I can't. I'd rather been the person that got shot and killed than be on the other side. I have to live with that the rest of my life. And I feel bad especially for the family of hers. I mean, it's awful. It's one thing when somebody lives a long life and they died of a heart attack, or they, had cancer and 6 months later they passed away, and they're in their 80s, and if they lived a good life. But when somebody's young like that, I mean, just a kid basically. And it's just sad, she's married too, right?
I think
she was married. Yeah. I mean, for her spouse, her husband. I don't know, man. How do you move on from that? It's sad, but whatever has to happen, hopefully whatever happens is exactly all the facts are correct, and there's nothing left out or anything. If whoever has to, whatever legally and where things really lie actually occurs that way. And that's it. I mean, it's just unfortunately, that person's not alive anymore. And there's just no way that's going to come out good. I mean, there's never going to be a good ending to it now.
Just as we said, we're not fans of Alec Baldwin, but that doesn't mean I want there to be the wrong judgment on him. I want whatever judgment is on him, it should be the correct judgment. And, if there was a lot of other actors at the time that said that he is 100% responsible for making sure that gun was not had the proper, was rigged properly. And so it just seemed to me right from the get-go that Alec Baldwin was trying to shift the blame immediately. And
that might have been legal. Some attorney might have been in his ear telling him that too.
It doesn't matter. I wouldn't be surprised. Doesn't matter. Then he should have kept his lips shut. And he shouldn't have been saying anything instead of trying to blame someone else. He should have just said, I'm going to let the investigation, take place, and you'll see that I'm innocent or whatever. But there's other actors coming out and saying, that use guns in movies all the time, and just say, look, it's part of the routine when you're an actor that you go through that with the coordinator. You check the firearm, you go through it before you even think about using it. So it's not just on someone else to hand you a gun loaded with blanks. It's up to you to go over it with them and make sure that everything is correct.
I understand all that. I mean, he didn't intentionally do anything to harm anyone. But
no, he didn't intentionally do it, which is why it's an involuntary manslaughter, because he was negligent in his actions that caused the death of someone else. And that's why it's involuntary manslaughter.
Yeah, it comes down to lazy. You think that, well, geez, we've been doing this for days. How's there going to be a bullet? I think it's just ridiculous at this point that they're still using guns that could fire bullets, frankly.
Yeah, why put anything in there? Because everything, I guess for realism, whatever. But with CG effects, I mean, it's so easy to put muzzle fire on it. I mean, I've done it before, in my workplace. And just working on a video, you put a muzzle fire on the end of a gun, and it looks real with smoke and everything, and it's not that hard to do. So
I mean, especially nowadays with, you go to a store and a kid's gun, how realistic it looks. I just think that they should, after this, I don't even think they should. That's it. There should be no real guns on the set. Come up with something else with all the technology that there is. So it's an extra added step or not. Look at what just this situation that happened. Do you want to be tied in that? Do you want to live the rest of your life being part of that, even though it was an accident? Not me.
Yeah. Time to move on, I guess. All right. So on a little lighter note, let's boast about a few things. So cue it up.
Blabber Boast.
No, I'll let you go first this time. Well, you have something to boast about. I've got something short to boast about. But unfortunately, I didn't do anything with this microphone to be able to switch it over. I was just
I didn't even think about it until you brought it up, because I generally forget about it. But I had this because I'm down here in my music room, and I just bought this thing back in December. And so let me get this off here. This is probably not going to sound good through here. This is a Martin single O 18 series. 18 series is one of their standard series models, one of the originals from years ago. They started making this again a few years ago. It's a parlor size guitar. It's a small bodied guitar. It has a shorter scale on it. Fits great sitting on the couch and things like that. Has a nice full sound for how small it is. It's all, of course, 100% wood, spruce top, mahogany sides and back. I do believe that's mahogany. I have a cape on there. I was messing around with the song. And yeah, it's really nice. And I bought this actually, this would be great for me even performing because it's small. There's big dreadnoughts, like I can't, like on the Christmas video, I'm too small of a guy for that. I bought this because it's, I could sit on my couch or anywhere, it's out of tune with this cape on it. I don't even know if that's coming through or not. Yeah. But I mean, the sustain for as little as the body is. It's fantastic. This would have been great recording my EP. Probably a live performance. If you're playing with somebody else, even with a pickup in it, probably not your best guitar for it, because it's not gonna have that booming sound of a big body guitar. But for a song, they're getting popular. These little, they call it parlor guitar because this body's small. If I don't feel like going over there and grabbing it, but this connected to me. But I'd show you like a triple O, which is just 3 O's or 3 0. I guess it would be considered 3 zeros. And how much bigger the body is, even though it's still small. And I'm going to tell you this, the way they built this thing, it's amazing how full sounding it is for being a small guitar. And it would have been great in the studio on my EP, because sometimes those like big body guitars are booming too much and the studio picks up too much low end. And this just has a nice, sweet sound to it. And I was looking to buy one, and I was looking at used, and I was on reverb.com, which is the music eBay. All it is musical instruments and amps and that. And I was looking at one of these that were new, and I just put a marker on it, and the company came back to me and they made me an offer on a guitar. It was brand new, and took $500 off of it. Wow. Which in today's times, that's about as low as anybody go. It's advertised everywhere. If you'd gone to Guitar Center or something like it, it'd been like 500 or maybe 550 more than this. And then, of course, I ended up winning that guitar all the way in the back from them, because I started following them afterwards, and I won this Les Paul Special all the way in the back. That's an $1,800 guitar. And it was like a week later, they were having a contest where it's like, hey, guess the weight of this guitar down to the 1/10 of an ounce, and you win this guitar for free. It's all yours. Shipping, everything's included. And I started doing research on a couple sites on I know what they average weigh, but with wood, everything could change. It could be up to 3/4 of a pound heavier or lighter. And I came up with what I thought would be an average, and I was the only one actually that got it right, not just first, but the only one. And then they sent me that, which I'd almost, for what that costs, almost ate up. Gave me this one for free. So it worked out. And that guitar is phenomenal back here too. It's a great. Maybe next time, what I'll do, I'll set up backward, or I'll have a microphone set where I could run that through an amplifier and play it a little bit.
A little jamming, yeah, hell yeah. So for anybody that's interested in a guitar like that, what's the MSRP on that sucker?
On which one?
On the one you're talking about, yeah.
My Martin.
Yeah, your Martin.
This will run you about $27.99.
Okay. Unless you buy it off eBay, right? Or
nope.
What's the music eBay?
Reverb.com.
Reverb.com.
What you have to do, they're not allowed to advertise specials that cheap, and your best bet is to ask them for probably a quote. Nobody's going to give you. If you're going to buy a Martin guitar that's brand new, unless it's already on sale at Guitar Center, your best bet's to go to one of the other authorized Martin dealers, a smaller company. It's not a franchise, and ask them for a quote, because they will discount that. Guitar Center or any of the big retailers, unless they put it up for sale, they're not going to, you go in there and you ask for that, you're going to end up paying $2,800. If you go somewhere else, depends on their situation, the size of the company. You could get probably up to 20% off. Used to be 30%, but now with the whole thing after COVID and everything like that, there's such a big increase in guitar sales, and Martin was closed down for a while here in Pennsylvania. So everything got backed up. And I sold a couple of my Martins because they were selling, you couldn't get them, and you might wait for 6 or 8 months because they ran out of them, the handmade instruments, and I sold them for close to what they were new. And I bought them used at a great price a couple of years earlier. But yeah, definitely Melody Music in Indiana. I mean, they're a huge dealer for Martin, Gibson, a lot of other brands, and they're really nice people. They have a website. You can see everything on there. And hey, you buy a Martin from Indiana. If you live in Pennsylvania, there's a problem. As long as you submit your warranty card in, there's places right in your own neighborhood. Anybody who's an authorized Martin dealer could do the lifetime warranty repairs on them. So you don't have to send them back to, doesn't matter where you bought it from.
Cool. Well, I could boast about Doumitt Cigars, but I think that would be considered pandering to our guest coming up. So we'll talk about that later when Chris is on the show. But speaking of cigars, when I was in the wine and spirits, I saw a bottle of Old Vine Zinfandel called Cigar. That's the brand, was called Cigar. And I'm like, well, that can't be good, But it was like $16 for the bottle. I'm like, well, that's about average. It was from Lodi, California. I'm like, okay, well, that's lining up. It just seemed weird that like they would call it Cigar and have it be any like decent or something like that. Because it would seem gimmicky, you know what I mean? To say, let's call our cigars because you can pair it with a cigar or whatever. But it was actually pretty good wine. It was actually pretty decent Zinfandel. I would say that I would recommend getting it. I'm not going to move it to the top of my list of my favorite Old Vine Zins, but I would highly recommend at least trying it out.
Does it have some sweetness to it?
Well, it's a Zin, you know what I mean? So it's a little oaky. It's bold. It's not, it's got some fruitiness to it, but not powerful. It's, it's more bold than it is fruity. I would recommend it. It's like I said, because it kind of surprised me that it would be kind of as good as it was, because I wasn't expecting too much from it. So anyways, so that's all I got to boast about right now. So let's end the segment.
Blabber Boast.
All right. So I want to talk about just one other thing. So, we talked about before that we're people listen to us in 13 different countries around the world, which is kind of cool, but we do have a large audience in Pittsburgh. So I just wanted to talk just for a couple of minutes because, we got Chris coming up here soon, about the Steelers' decision to keep Matt Canada on. And I've got some thoughts. I was
going to talk to you about that. Before you even go into that, I had a feeling that was going to happen because we were at is it Jernigans or Jernigans, and we watched the last Steeler game. Right. And on the way home, I'm on my way home in my car, and I'm listening. I'm like, yeah, I'll listen to a little bit of the post-game show. And I can't remember, I don't think it was the DV when it was on 93.7 The Fan. And they were already talking about how well the offense came around the second half of the season, and how now we're starting to see the great results from Matt Canada. So I knew that was probably, I knew that's probably what's going to happen. Now they're going to judge the second half of the season, where we only played one team with a winning record,
right.
And we probably would have lost that game if their backup quarterback wasn't there and screwed up at the end. So that's what they're going to judge things off. Yeah, the team did get better and started gelling, and the offensive line did better than that. But look at the level of talent from the first half of the season to the second half of the season. All of our losses. That tells you those are the teams, except for one. Well, we did lose to them once, but with a winning record.
Right. Well, here's my thoughts on this. When I first saw an article come out that said that they said, is Byron Leftwich going to be the Steelers' new offensive coordinator? And I said, that would be cool. I said, because that would be one step closer to him probably getting the head coaching job. And then shortly after, they make the announcement about Matt Canada. And we all know that Matt Canada is just Tomlin's puppet, right? So I think that Tomlin didn't want him in there because it's, it'd be one step closer to getting him out. And not only that, but I don't think that Leftwich would have been his puppet. So my guess is that behind the scenes, the Steelers might have told Tomlin that they're not going to extend his contract. So why finish out the season bringing on somebody that's not going to be your puppet and someone that possibly could take your place? I don't know. Like I said, that's just my guess on why they decided to keep him. I think he went to bat for him and just said, probably told him all the same things that you're saying, which was what they said on the radio. And I don't know. Well, we'll see. Tomlin's got one more year on his contract. I think if they were going to extend it, they probably would have done it immediately after the season. And they didn't. So my guess is possibly the Steelers are looking to move on after 2023, but
maybe
I guess time will tell. I could be totally wrong. It'll come July and something like that, and they'll say, "Oh, well, Tomlin's been extended for 5 more years" or something stupid like that, and like, and we're stuck with this bonehead. Look, it's not like that Tomlin is a horrible coach. And he's just not a great coach. He's not as great as people think he is. Like, so we have one playoff win in the last 12 years. And that's like, I know, and we are still in the times where it's, what have you done for me lately? Right. True. He pulled something out of his butt this year by not having a losing season. So he's never had a losing season, but that's fine. Like, it's like you get to the dance, but then what do you do once you get there? You just forget all about your date and you just go start drinking or something like that. You don't care. You only cared about getting to the dance. You don't care about the actual dance itself or the date that you brought there. And that's not the signs of a good coach. The only accomplishments he's ever had were with Cowher's team. And I don't know. You and I have beat this to death, but just for the people out there listening, I'm just going on record to say that Tomlin, for all of you Tomlin apologists, I get it. I know why you love the guy. I know why you're into him and why you think he's a great coach or whatever. But I'm saying the data and the stats don't back that up. I'm a data and stats guy. I'm looking at the numbers, and just because you have winning seasons time after time after time after time doesn't mean boo in the NFL. It's what do you do to get to the postseason, and then what do you do once you get to the postseason? And more often than not, obviously, only one time in the last 12 years, they only advanced past the first round. Now, that's one time in 12 years, they haven't made it to the playoffs all 12 of those years. So, again, I don't know. That's my thoughts on that. So anyways, I need to really take care of my throat here. And before Chris comes on. So we're going to take a short little break. I'm going to power up my my voice here, and we'll be back with Gold Rush's Chris Doumitt.
Blabber Boast.
We had to fight for this stuff. It wasn't just an easy lead.
And we did see gold in the upper mats. You want to see the rest of it?
Yeah, I want to see how we did.
Okay, here we go. Ready, Mitch?
Time to find out if Doumitt's plant fix worked.
It's going to go quick.
All right, 20, 40, 50, 330, 337.45.
Worth over $600,000.
I like that a lot better.
Yeah.
That's a lot better.
That's 4 times what we got on our first cleanup. You know, so if you can keep that plant running.
Keep your mouth shut. Be saying that too loud. That thing will hear you. It's got a mind of its own.
You shut your mouth.
No problem there.
And welcome back to Blabber Brain Show. My throat is still hoarse, but we are so excited to welcome our next guest, Chris Doumitt from Gold Rush. Let's give him a big round of applause.
Yeah. Thank you, man. Good to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, Chris, I mean, I tell you what, I've been watching you on TV for a long time right now. I'm so glad you got to come on our show here because, you know, there's a lot of people to not get attached to on Gold Rush. Let's put it that way, to be mild, right? There's some people you want to pull for, some people you don't want to pull for, but I think the most consistent cast member is Chris Doumitt, to be honest with you. And I don't know if that's because that you and I are a lot alike. Yeah, I think if we were neighbors, we'd probably be hanging out or something. I mean, I love cigars. I love wine. You know, we're both bald. You know, I love the golf. You love the golf. I mean, there's just we share a lot of the same passions together. So, but you know, I don't want to make this. We'll talk about Gold Rush coming up. But you know, I want to get. You don't do a whole lot of interviews, first of all, do you?
No, I don't. For being on TV as much as I am, I actually live a pretty private life. Not that I'm against doing interviews and stuff. It's just that I'm not really one of the big players like Parker, Tony, you know, Mitch. He's getting in there now, so I just I keep a little profile.
Well, that's why we're blessed to even have you on, and thankful that you're doing that. And like I said, I like to have guests on the show that I am interested in knowing more about and asking questions and stuff. And my thought process is, if I'm interested, then possibly other people will be interested in as well. So, you know, we know how you got on Gold Rush with Todd Hoffman's crew, and of all things, you're just building a cabin for him or whatever.
Yeah.
But what I want to know is, leading up to that point, what was Chris Doumitt doing? How did you even, you know, get involved with the Hoffman Crew before that? Like, what was life for Chris Doumitt before Gold Rush?
A lot calmer. Well, I was a furniture cabinet maker for several years and a plant carpenter for 32 years. And I retired at 55, and I was just messing with the house, fixing up the kitchen for my daughter when one of the original cast members, Greg Rimsberg, I know his dad. And his dad got a hold of me and asked if I would go up to Alaska on his nickel and build a cabin for Greg and his family.
Okay.
Well, you know what sportsman wouldn't love to go to Alaska? And so it was supposed to take 10 days. And all the materials were there. When we got there, the materials were there, but they were still standing with limbs on them. So we had to find a sawyer to set up all this lumber. And he didn't have the best work ethic in the world. So instead of taking like 10 days, it took almost 10 weeks.
Oh, wow.
And by the time I finished up the cabin, and I was kind of intermingling with the production guys and such, and I came home. And the next day, production called it, asked if I was coming back. And, oh, I'm all done with the cabin. You like who you are, you know, and the Hoffmans need somebody because Jimmy Dorsey had just left.
Right.
And they needed to fill that void. So I packed up a bag and took off and went to the MSHA, the mining safety classes for the state, and joined the Hoffmans. And that was 13 years ago. So I got to be retired for about 3 when all this started.
Well, I mean, so, you know, I see you in like a lot of the big equipment, you know, trucks and stuff like that. Did you have any prior experience to running that big equipment?
Well, I grew up on a farm. I was fostered out to a farm. So tractors, big trucks, stuff like that, I was pretty familiar with. At work, I would drive forklifts every now and then. So that the loaders, you know, those are pretty much like a forklift.
Right.
And that's what I started in, was a loader with the Hoffmans. And then you just don't stay in one job. You always have to progress and move up. And so I moved from a loader to an excavator, and you don't want me in a dozer. No, no, that's not good. Yeah, I can do a lot of damage.
I say that because, well, I mean, now obviously you've been doing it for so many years. Like when you know you're in there, you just seem like it's like so comfortable for you and so natural for you to be in the big machines, even though you don't do that all the time because you know you're in the cleanup room. But so that's why I just didn't know if you like what kind of background you had in that or anything like that. But so you have no mining experience, much like Todd Hoffman. You had no mining experience before going up there to join him.
No, I had no idea what gold mining was about. But it was like most people, I always like learning things.
Right.
And it was a challenge. And I was in the heavy equipment with both the Hoffmans and with Parker, and I messed up my back. I actually had to have back surgery, which got me out of the heavy equipment. That's what got me into the gold room.
Okay.
And the challenge for me is recovering every little flake. You know, I try to get just every flake we can possibly get, and I enjoy doing that. It's easier on the back.
Well, where did you like refine your techniques with that? Because I'm assuming that if you don't have a good cleanup guy or girl, that you're gonna. I mean, you could be losing a fair percent. I mean, even 0.5% or 0.5% is a lot of money whenever you're talking about gold mining. So, like, your job is extremely important to make sure you're getting all of the gold. So where did you learn to refine your techniques?
You know, it's trial and error. All the mines that you see on TV, except for maybe Fred Lewis, we all have the same cleanup equipment. It's just, you know, who works it the best. And I've always experimented. I'm sure I lost a lot of gold learning how to recover gold.
Right.
But some of those mines up there, they'll lose 3, 4, up to 7% of their gold.
Wow.
And
wow,
that's a lot.
Yeah, we lose less than 1/1000th of 1%.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're saying you're probably the best cleanup guy up there, right?
Yeah. There's a guy
worth your weight in gold.
Pardon?
Worth your weight in gold.
Oh, not that much. Believe me, I get fat in the winter. There's a guy that comes around all the mines up there, and he buys a scrap out of the gold rooms, and the miners get a percentage back. And I told him, I said, you know, I really think you and your wife and kids should go to Hawaii. I just don't want to pay for it. And by refining my cleanup techniques, you know, he's not real crazy about getting our scrap now. I'm kind of proud of that.
No, that's awesome. So, I mean, sorry, I don't mean to bounce back and forth, but
bounce.
What like, I know how you ended up on Parker's team, but it was probably from referral from Greg, correct?
Once more, please.
Whenever you joined Parker's team, it was probably around season 3 or 4, somewhere around there.
3. Yeah, I think 4. Well, yeah, you're right. 4.
4. Okay.
Yeah.
And but other than stating the obvious, why did you part with the Hoffman Crew?
Well, the Hoffmans were going to go to South America, and I saw that as a total disaster before they even went.
Good call.
And you know, my original intent was to help the Hoffmans become successful miners, to learn how to mine and support them as much as I could. And when they left the Yukon, they were actually pretty good. It wasn't the best ground that they had, but they had a pretty good recovery rate. So I thought, well, between that, they don't need me. And I wasn't real fond about going to South America. I decided, well, I'm done. They don't need me. I'm going to retire.
Right.
And so I almost did.
And just like the Godfather, you know, every time you try to get out, they pull you back in, right?
Starting to feel like a professional football player. I keep trying to retire.
Right. So, well, I guess that begs another question. If it weren't for the show, would you be doing this?
Would I be minding if it wasn't for the show?
Yeah.
Oh, I think so. I flat out love what I do. I really do. It's so fun. And the challenge of trying to get all that gold, keep the scrap way down. I have to stay busy. I would probably drive my wife crazy if I was home all summer. She barely puts up with me for the 6 months I am home.
Right.
So I'm saving my marriage.
There you go. That's a good way to look at it. Well, plus, I mean, I think they, even though you're called out into the field every now and then, you're pretty much refined to the gold room.
Correct.
So, and boy, what a sweet setup you got there. You got their little island out there that you practice your chipping and stuff like that. So you don't get rusty there. But I'm assuming there's no golf courses up there. So
there's one.
There's one.
Yeah, top of the world golf course out of Dawson City.
You play in the snow or what?
Well, no, it can get pretty chilly, but you got to watch out for bears. It's kind of wooded, and there's an air horns that scare the moose off the fairway. It's kind of cool. The last tee time is at 9 p.m. because we have the 24-hour daylight.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and the gold room. Our original gold room was just a wall tent, and it finally collapsed. So Parker gave me the okay to build that, the gold room you see now. So I built that, and then I built that floating green, and we have floating golf balls. There's a dart board down there. There's a canoe, radio-controlled boats. You probably see those on the wall behind us.
Right.
I try to make it a playground for the kids, but I call them kids. They're 20, 30-year-olds, right?
Right.
But, those we work 7 days a week, 12 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't get huge blocks of time off. So I try to make that gold room area kind of a R&R. Yeah.
Well, that's the other thing, too. I mean, it's kind of hard to fake some of the adoration that the rest of the team has towards you whenever you're doing the weekly weigh and stuff like that. You almost are like a father figure around the mine there, I think. So was that like almost like you're like how the way you saw it? Like, I'm going to, I know your personality. You've got that great personality. So is that just natural that everybody just kind of like gravitated that way? Or is that just what you naturally do? Like, hey, I'm going to be the life of the party, or, people just, whatever. I'm not going to piss anybody off or whatever. I mean, was that anticipated on your end, or were you like, hey, this is Parker, it's probably not going to happen?
I didn't volunteer or try to play that role. But there again, these are a lot of young men and women. We've got a lot of young ladies up there.
Right.
And my wife and I have 2 kids, but we helped raise about 8 others,
Wow.
And it's a hard life. People don't realize just how hard of a life that mining is. Right. Not just the work, but the life. You're in a camp. You don't see other people. So it almost becomes like a family environment. And the tighter you can make that family environment, the more the crew looks out for each other, and they help each other out like a family would, brothers and sisters would. So if you can create that environment, you get a lot better work environment also.
Well, after and it's okay. I know you probably want to be modest with this answer, but it's okay not to be. But after Parker's grandfather passed away, do you think it like you played a role in his maturing, because he has matured over the years, and especially after his grandfather passed? Do you think you played a decent role in that?
I probably did. There again, I didn't try to, and there's no way on this planet I could possibly ever replace Grandpa John. I mean,
right.
The bond between grandson and grandfather, I've never seen one as strong as that before in my life. It was just totally amazing. But Parker was young, and I think he needed a shoulder to lean on. And there's a another person in our camp a lady that almost plays like a mother role. Mm-hmm. And she's a great help too. And I think between the two of us, we kind of helped him with some hurdles.
Yeah, well, he's definitely grown up, matured, and now he's, got one of the biggest operations up there. You know what I mean? It's unbelievable how he's not just grown as a person, but grown the operations up there is just outstanding, amazing. And from what you don't get to see behind the scenes and stuff like that along. And when Christo goes up there, he's more interested in just talking to individuals and the teams and stuff like this without going deep into behind the scenes. But the team as a team, you guys look solid. You guys look like you love working with each other. I mean, I know you sometimes don't have a choice because you're there for so long with each other, but is that honest? Is that true? I mean, you guys really are that like close of a bond?
We have a tremendous bond up there. Honestly, I feel tied to those kids as my own kids. Wow. And I think they feel the same way. We have a core group. We have Mitch and Tyson and myself and Parker and a couple, that's the core group. And we are super tight.
Right.
When somebody first comes into camp, their first year or so, we accept them and everything, but we're going to see how well they fit.
Right.
In that business up there and in the environment that we work in, your skills as a machine operator are almost secondary to your ability to get along with the rest of the crew.
Right.
You don't fit if you don't have that personality, if you don't have that work ethic, that attitude. You could be the best operator in the country and you're down the road.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's good.
What you see is very true. They're just like family. We have a little disagreements, we'll call them. But
I was just going to ask you about that. If there was any time behind the scenes where things have gotten really heated that we don't get to see on screen.
If I've never seen a really heated or throw a punch type of deal. If anything, it might, and it's never, the ones I've seen have never been over personality. It has been over the job you did or didn't do.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's the verbally attack someone else. No, they don't last long.
Well, now I know that, the mining is the mining and the film crew is there to try to capture all the that's going on behind the scenes with mining. And but then there's also a lot of interplay between the mine bosses, like with Parker and Tony, or when Rick was on the show, or Fred, and Tony and stuff like this. How much of that is like played up by the producers saying, "Hey, we need a moment here," whatever, that's outside of gold mining, that's whatever, some sort of personal connection or a fight or a feud? Is any of that like pushed by the producers?
No, I mean. And that's one thing. A lot of people think it's scripted, either by action or by verbal, but it's not. They stand back and they watch things happen. They might dramatize it on narration on the show. Right. If you break a track, well, it might be the end of the season, the end of the world. Everybody breaks tracks, man.
Right.
It's a way of life, all the plant broke down and, he's losing 4,000 ounces of gold. We didn't lose it.
Right.
I mean, it's in the ground, right?
Right.
So it's the way that they word it, but
right.
Every stupid thing you see, every stupid thing you hear, that's us, man. That is us. We don't need help.
Yeah, Matty Blake said the same thing about the Curse of Oak Island. He says, the Laginas wouldn't have done the show if they were being told what to say, when to say it, and stuff like that. So he said, whatever you see there is what's going on. You know what I mean? Right. So that's cool to know.
It's production's number one rule when they come in is they cannot interfere with our mining. So for us, mining is number one, TV is number two. If production goes away, if Gold Rush goes away, you could rerun the seasons for the future, because that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be breaking tracks, blowing hydraulic lines,
right.
and mining.
Yeah. Well, I guess, that's, and you guys often break the fourth wall where, you see some of the guys like yelling at the cameraman, hey, get back, get out of the way, whatever, you know what I mean? Whenever there's an emergency or something like that.
Right.
And so, they're doing the best job that they can, trying to capture as much as they can. But yeah, I can see where they could probably sometimes get in the way of
and they do, trying to get that shot. And a lot of these production guys are studio cameramen and sound guys. They've never been in the field. So when a new camera person, when new production people come in, they go through safety classes. They don't realize that when you're in the loader, you can't see the first 20 feet behind you. They just walk behind it like a cigar.
Right.
Yeah, they go through safety classes. A lot of times we're not wearing sunglasses because when they move around in the cut, we have to make eye contact.
Right.
You wave to guys, and an operator, the operator waves back to the cameraman, which means now we see each other. With sunglasses, you can't see that eye contact.
Right.
So it's when we are wearing glasses, more than likely it's a GoPro. They have hundreds of GoPros, it seems like, everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
I could tell you a couple stories about that, too.
Looks like they'll waste some GoPros, too, whenever they need to, just to get shots and stuff.
I hear they lose about 19 of them a season. They average about 19 GoPros a season.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, whatever it takes to get the shot, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, let's transition to Doumitt Cigars. I'm a customer of Doumitt Cigars. I buy them. I enjoy them, especially I just bought a batch of D10s.
Well, thanks for your support.
Yeah. But whose idea was that? I mean, you're smoking cigars all the time. Somebody, whether it be you or someone else, said, you know what, we need to kind of, do something with this because, you're getting notoriety from the show. You love cigars. Let's launch a cigar brand. Whose idea was that to start that?
The public. Believe it or not. The public, yeah.
Wow.
On social media and just meeting people. When are you going to start your own cigar company? Do you have your own cigar brand? And it just kept going and going and going. And I do not have a business mind.
Right.
And so I really never gave it a lot of consideration until a couple things happened. I was invited to Napa Cigar down in Napa, California for a meet and greet. And we did that, had a lot of fun, met a lot of cool people. And his business partner is an importer. So I asked, would he import for me? Yes. Then I got a hold of an old cigar smoking friend of mine who teaches, he's a professor teacher at the college, and he teaches how to start and operate small businesses. Need I say more?
Right.
So he and I worked out a partnership, and we got a hold of this importer, and we started Doumitt Cigar with just 2 cigars. That was just barely over 5 years ago.
Well, so obviously you keep adding more, and you're still going. So does that mean things are going pretty good there? Yeah,
they're going good. We're having a lot of fun at it.
Right.
My business partner's name is Harry DeWolf. And when we were talking about starting up, I said, Harry, if this company fails or succeeds, either way, my goal is that I don't want to have to ever buy another cigar as long as I live. That was a goal. We've reached that point, by the way.
So you smoke Doumitts exclusively, or is that what you're saying?
And we listen to our customers a lot,
right.
For flavor, size, things like that. We have some pretty strong regular customers now.
Mm-hmm.
And we're always trying to do little special things. We got a special coming up. I can't give it away right now, but like for Christmas, we had a special box of cigars made and things like that
right.
People have asked for.
Well, I took advantage of the free shipping, the Santa Chris special.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. So, any Churchills on the horizon?
Any specials?
Any Churchills?
Oh, I'm thinking, because we just got done testing like 6 more cigars to try to pick one. I'm trying to think if there was a Churchill in there or not. I don't think there was.
Well, maybe
sorry.
eventually.
Yeah. You want one?
So,
do we need to make you up some Churchills?
absolutely. I would love one.
Okay.
That's what I like to smoke.
Yeah, that's my favorite too, is it Churchill.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
Mike gave me one of your cigars. I haven't had last time I saw him, I haven't had a chance to be outside to actually try it. And
It's
I'm
cold,
looking
it's cold
forward
here
to
in
it.
Pittsburgh. So,
Oh my gosh.
I try not to smoke in the house anymore. I mean, I have the HEPA filter thing, and it's been so cold I haven't been even able to go out on my screen-in porch where I have the clear vinyl sheeting up. But once that brick gets cold and it hits wintertime, unless it's a really sunny day, you can't, no matter what, it's like trying to heat a refrigerator, and it's just not
Right.
working. But I'm looking forward. I've looked at your webs, went onto the website and looked at, every the cigars that you have, and I definitely looking forward to actually giving it a try, especially after now somebody I've actually met and talked to is actually behind a cigar. I'm going to smoke. It's cool.
Yeah.
I
forgot.
like the D10s. The D10s were good. I think I had a D8 before that. What's your favorite of the Doumitt cigars?
Yes. First of all, I forgot. See, I'm in Palm Springs right now,
Okay.
so I forgot the rest of the country's a little bit on the cold side.
Right.
I knocked out 18 in a cigar this morning already. But I like the Apprentice.
Okay.
It's a mild, but like on a higher mild side of a cigar. I like the Rechancho, little short, stubby 4-inch.
I've had those before too.
Rechancho, yeah, I like those. Those are probably number 1 and 2, and then the Master, and that I like that one.
I haven't tried that yet.
Yeah, and the just my least favorites are the little 380s, only because I don't care for little small cigars. They remind me too much of a cigarette.
Right. Yeah, I don't smoke much of those. Mark has from time to time those type, but to me, I like the 60 gauge, something a little meatier behind it. But anyways, so you are you still making your own wine?
I did not this year, but I'll probably I will in 2023.
I think
it's hard.
Mitch has called it your hooch or something like that before.
A prison hooch. Well, up there is hard to, I don't want to say this. It's not hard to get alcohol up there, that's for sure.
Right.
But it's hard to get to town to get it. And it's really expensive. We're in Canada. And so I brought some winemaking stuff, and I just bought a whole bunch of grape juice. And I made that into wine. And that's where the hooch came from.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like the backyard wine.
Yeah. I start with grapes, and it's always risky because I get home so late in the year. I'm getting home in mid-October, and a lot of times the grape season is done. So that has a lot to do with whether I can make wine this year or not.
What's your favorite kind of wine overall?
Red.
Any red?
I make a Cab Merlot blend, 50-50. That goes really good. Yeah, that's my
Cab.
favorite.
I like Old Vine Zin, and I like Shiraz or Syrah, both of them.
Syrah, yeah.
Shiraz usually comes from certain parts of Australia, and
Right.
the Syrahs, that version in California. So I like if it's bold, if it's oaky, if it's got a lot of power behind it, a lot of flavor, burst of flavor. That's I like the red blends. I like like I said, Gnarly Head makes one of their brands is called 1924, and they make a double black. They make a double black cab and a double black red blend that is just incredible. So much flavor in those. And I like a few of the bourbon barrel ones, but not all of them, because some of them are just like a little too they almost like they're like killing the wine flavor with a little bit too much of the bourbon flavor.
Oh yeah, some of them you just open it up and it's like, oh. But I tried one, and I was here in our state. The state controls pretty much the liquor sales. There's a few grocery stores they're allowed to carry wine, but not any spirits. And I bought one, and I was like, chairman selected. Our state bought a bunch, like somebody supplied, and then they sell it as a discount price. Sometimes there's some great deals, but I had one, oh my God, I opened it up and it was just like, it was even stronger than open up a bottle of bourbon. I mean, it was just like making your eyes burn, and it was just.
I'll give you my mailing address. That sounds good. Well, I learned through the years that different yeast gives the wine different flavors. And so I found a yeast that I like, a real fruity flavor, in my wine. So, not super dry, but I like that. I know it's grapes when I drink it.
Right. Yep. Yeah. I've been, over the last year or two, been getting more into like some of the European wines, like from France or Spain or something like that. And Italy. And I never ventured to get those type of wines before, but I'm actually really liking whenever I see them on the chairman's selection, as Mark said. And I'll just sample them because you get a good deal on them and just see what this is like. And you read the description of the wine. They'll have like a little card there with a description on it. And so I'm getting more worldly with my taste for wine. So,
well, I think wine and cigars have a lot in common. You just have to keep trying them until you find one that you really like. And don't worry about price. I'm not going to get that wine because it's $2 a gallon.
Right.
If it's $2 a gallon and you like it, who cares?
Yep.
Buy one bottle of expensive wine, dump it out, and put your $2 stuff in there and drink it.
I have friends of mine who are wine connoisseurs that travel the world. They're both retired now, and that's all they do is travel and drink wine everywhere. And they say the same thing. Look, they're a $10 bottle of wine could be just as good as a $110 bottle of wine. It all depends on you and your likes and tastes and stuff like that. So, so that's what I think is pretty cool. We were talking early in the first segment about this wine I bought. It's actually called Cigar. It's
really?
I think it's from Lodi, California, and it was an Old Vine Zin, and I saw it on the shelf. It just said Cigar, and that was the brand.
You gotta try it.
And I'm like, I got to try that. It was like $15-$16 for the bottle, something like that. And to me, it sounded gimmicky. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, you're pairing your wine with a cigar. So kind of like nudge people to buy your bottle of wine whenever they were smoking a cigar or something like that. But it was actually really good. So I'm like, okay, it wasn't really a gimmicky wine. It was pretty good. So you might have to check that out. So I wouldn't bump it up to my list of favorite Zins, but I would buy it again. It's pretty good.
I don't think I've ever paid more than $8 for a bottle of wine or $10 for a cigar.
Wow.
Okay. And I
don't pay anything for cigars.
My question to you about whether you ever, like, I like to smoke a cigar and have a port wine occasionally.
Right.
I guess being that you don't go over $8, that you're probably not buying any port.
No, because I have so much wine at home. I'll do that. Now, a friend of mine makes an excellent raspberry port. Now, I'll have that with a cigar, but I'm kind of either red wine or a bourbon.
Okay.
And a cigar. Yeah.
Oh, yep. See, like I said, if we were neighbors, I think we'd be hanging out.
Oh yeah, I think so.
So what does Chris do on the off season?
Well, once I get home from the Yukon, I spend a few weeks working on the business, catching up with Harry and what's going on, trying to develop new cigars, new products and things. And so I'll spend a few weeks on the cigar business. And then my wife and I are snowbirds. Okay. So we come from Oregon. We come down to Southern California. That's where I'm sitting right now. That's why I was able to go golfing this morning.
All right.
And I'll be here for about 4 months, and then my wife will stay here, and I'll go back up north and back up and go way north. It's still too cold for her to go back home. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm not my dad lives in Florida, and I lived there for a couple of years. As Mark did for a year with me a long time ago. And I go down every year to watch the Super Bowl with him. And I try to go down a few other times during the year, but since COVID, I really haven't had time to do it and kind of got out of the habit, but I'm gonna have to get back into that habit. But get to play some golf whenever I go down there. But it's weird because like it's February and I haven't played golf up here since like September. So you get all that month off and you don't have any practice or anything like that.
Yeah, my winters can actually be warmer than my summers. It's what month are we?
Flip there, yeah.
We're in January. It's actually been pretty cool down here this year, but it should be in the 70s right now. And in February, it's going to start bumping up in the 80s, and we don't see that up north. It's just a hot day,
now, obviously.
And a hot day in the Yukon might be 70, 71, 72.
That's still pretty nice.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's a dry heat, right?
Right.
Right.
So do you watch the show at all?
Yes, I do. I watch. We have friends that we've known before Gold Rush started, and they love it. And so we'll get together on a Friday night, and I think they get a benefit because they'll record it and then pause it. Now what happened here? Or see, this is where I live, and see this, that's where camp is, and you get a lot of behind the scene right there.
All right, might take you 2 hours to watch an episode, huh?
Yeah, but we're all just average people. We're not actors, and so to see yourself on television is not as shocking as it probably would have been before the VHS recorders. Remember, people had their home recorders, they plug them in, and you see yourself on television. It's the same thing.
Right.
The biggest shock was about 3/4 of the way through the season, on season 1, production and Discovery knew it was going to be a hit.
Right.
And one of the camera guys goes, "Yeah, this is going to be Discovery's #1 program, and you're going to be on billboards and signs outside of buses and stuff like that." And I just, right, whatever. And I actually even watched a couple. No, I didn't. Anyway, I can't remember if I watched an episode or not, but I was at home watching the World Series.
Right.
And our ad came on, and I was on that ad. And I thought, there are more people outside of my little town watching the Super Bowl or this World Series.
Right.
And I actually broke into a cold sweat. Millions of people watch the World Series, and they just saw me on television. And I got a little nervous on that one.
Wow.
Now it's all old hat.
Right, obviously. So I noticed that when you first came out with Doumitt Cigars, you were allowed to wear your merchandise and stuff like that. Yeah. And then now they blur it out. Did someone just say, "Hey, no more free advertising. You're either going to pay for that placement or we're going to blur it out"? Did that happen, or did they just not even give you a choice?
I don't know. I really don't. And I really can't discover an answer from anyone else, because it's the only logo that's being blurred out. Right.
Right.
And so I'll talk to him again this summer and find out what's going on.
Something like nobody even asked you, say, hey, look, if you want the logo, well, you can, but you're going to have to pay a fee for the placement of it or something. Like nobody even approached you about that?
No.
Oh man, that's not cool.
Haven't heard from him.
Yeah, well, fight for that. You need some. You only get so much from doing the show. I mean, you got to get a little bit more benefit from it, so you get pick up some business.
It's odd because when Christo does the dirt, it's not blurred, but right. On Gold Rush it is.
Maybe that's because now it's on the dirt's only on the internet, and I don't know if it's on the TV anymore.
We get a really good response from the dirt. Seems like people really like that. They don't even put it on. I get Discovery Plus, and they don't even put it on Discovery Plus anymore.
No. That's kind of odd. But,
I don't know.
What's your least favorite part about what they do with the show whenever they're producing it and putting it together? Like, what don't you like? What makes you cringe? Like, oh, why did they do that?
They can get a few things wrong. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that kind of bugs me, like I said earlier, is, they just lost $1,000 in gold. No, we didn't. It's still on the ground. We just haven't gotten to it yet. That's kind of dumb.
Yeah.
Yeah. They get some facts wrong. Not very often, really, but every now and then. And as for making the show, the worst part is doing makeups or pickup work, because now it's September, and or late September, and it's maybe 5 degrees out.
Right.
And they go, hey, you blew the scene back in July, or the sun was in your eyes or something, and you were out in a T-shirt. And so I got to go get that T-shirt. And, they tell you what you were doing, because who remembers that far back. But you got to stand there in 5 degrees in a T-shirt while they get all this stuff all set up.
Oh, geez.
You say your lines really quick and get out of there.
Right. Anything for the show. That's funny. So now you might not have any information or are privy to this at all or anything like that, but I know why Rick is off the show, and he's kind of struggling with some things right now, but he's still on the opening. His face is still in the opening logo, and the maybe his decision to not return happened after they already had that produced, and they didn't want to put a new one together. But it almost was alluding to the fact that he might be coming back. But do you know anything about Rick Ness or what's going on with him?
I don't. I really don't. I don't pay attention to the other miners, especially during the mining season.
Right.
And I'm not in contact that much with Discovery, and I'm not a major player. And so actually there are people on social media that know more about what's going on with not just Rick, but Gold Rush than I do.
Right.
I just do my thing.
Yeah. All right. Well, like I said, we're not doing try and dig, but I ask questions that I want to know the answer to, and if you knew, you knew. If you don't, you don't. Whatever. So, is there do they? At what point in time do they tell you if you've been renewed for another season? Is that usually before the end of the season? Is that after the end of the season? Is it different?
It varies. I know that Tony and Parker and the big names, they're in January. Mm-hmm. They notify me in April.
Okay.
Which is cutting really quick, because if they don't want me back, or if they want me to go, I've got about 2 weeks to get ready and go.
Right.
If they don't want me back, I miss some pretty good prime golf time down here.
Well, I guess that works both ways. Like I asked, if the show wasn't on, would you be doing this? And you said yes. But I'm assuming because of how good you've gotten at gold cleanups, that regardless of if the show was on or not, I'm assuming Parker would want you working with him. Is that fair to assume?
Yeah, there's been a couple incidences. One year, our cook came down to the gold room. He was kind of half laughing. I said, "What's so funny?" He goes, "Oh, I just left Parker." And Parker was saying his girlfriend's coming up, and he doesn't know what to do with her. He doesn't want her to get bored. So I told Parker, I said, just put her in the gold room with Doumitt. Parker's answer. If I have to sacrifice a girlfriend to keep that old man happy, I'll do it.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. I mean, that's, well, yeah, again, whatever it takes, right? So I guess that just shows what he thinks of you. So that's pretty awesome. So
yeah, Parker and I get along really well.
So you say you usually go down when, about April?
Right.
Okay. So you're probably getting a call here coming up soon. So, and again, that's regardless of whether Discovery is going to be filming or not. But do you know that there's going to be another season of Gold Rush? Yeah.
I would say there's going to be. It's still their most popular show.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why they would pull the plug on it, when it's still number one.
I mean, other than, maybe, I mean, it seems like they keep trying to find other minors. I don't know how Fred's season is going to end, but they kind of tease it up like they teased it up before, that where he's finding better gold and stuff like that. So maybe he gets a win. And then there are those two young brothers now that they snuck on the show that were near Fred. They're not having too good of a season, but it seems like almost like they're stretching to try to find more people to put on the show or something like that. Maybe in place of Rick, since he's not there. But
that could be part. Yeah, that could be. I know that the Schnabel crew, we have gotten really, really good at what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard for production to get content.
Right.
There's not a lot of the dramas and the failures and the setbacks and things besides throwing a track and breaking a hose. So it's hard for them to get content out of us.
Right.
And I think they're doing a great job, but I think maybe that's why they're throwing in more guys, more, like Fred and the two brothers.
Or maybe with Parker having another operation now in Alaska.
Yeah.
Is there going to be like split time between both sites now?
And that could be too. Right. There's some things I can't say about Alaska yet. So we're expanding, and that might help pick up a lot of content.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Okay, so anything you want to plug right now? Anything you've got coming up besides your cigars or anything? Any like charity golf events or anything?
It's kind of it's kind of embarrassing to plug cigars, right? But no, we're just having a lot of fun with those, and we're really battling on trying to keep the price down.
Right.
Since COVID, we just got brutalized. Almost everything doubled.
Right.
And so we're I hate price increases.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I'm the guy that's doing it, I kind of feel bad about that.
Right.
But I think we still have a good quality cigar at a fairly reasonable price. And we have a Facebook page and an Instagram page thingy.
So is it at Doumitt Cigars? Is that what you use for everything?
Doumitt Cigar. And there's going to be a video coming out here pretty soon that you might want to check out. We have some options to what's coming up. I don't want to give anything away.
Okay.
But we're having fun.
The website is DoumittCigar.com.
DoumittCigar.com. Yeah.
We'll flash all that up on the screen here for people to find you.
Well, thanks. Appreciate that.
Yeah. So once again, we really appreciate you taking the time out to be on the show. I know you don't do interviews, and maybe you were surprised that someone wanted to have you on the show, but I'm thinking to myself, like, why isn't he booked like every week on people's talk shows? That's the way I think.
Dodging the bullets. Yeah.
So,
well, thanks for the invite. It's been a lot of fun. Really cool.
It was great talking.
Glad you like the cigars too. We'll have to
nice meeting you.
Yeah,
stay tuned afterwards, and we'll chat, huh?
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I'll be looking out for the Churchills, that's for sure. So
okay, cool, man. Thank you.
All right. Well, for Chris Doumitt and the Big M, Mark Anthony over there, I'm Michael Kadrie, and we will see you next time on Blabber Brain Show. I'll be better next time.
Later.